All right, we're ready for lesson 2 out of chapter 3, moving right along with what we've been talking about. Yesterday we talked about constant rate of change, and hopefully you remember that was a change of y over x. Well, today we're going to keep on with that idea, and we're going to talk about slope and how that relates to the constant rate of change. Slope is rise, the change in rise, or the vertical change, over the change in run, or the horizontal change. So it's rise over run. Remember, we started with y over x. It's the same thing. Rise then is the change in y, the change up and down. And run is going to be the change left and right, or the change in x. Okay? And then let's look at this chart right here, and we're going to take just a minute. We're not going to fill all of it in because there's some things that I want you to think about. First of all, I think this word means. Well, if we talk about that, we might come back to that one. When I have heard this word in my life, well, I have heard this on a ski slope. I've heard slope. So, skiing. I've heard it from a stairwell or a stairway point of view. The rest of this we're going to come back to and fill out in a minute. This says a ride in an amusement park rises, so it goes up, because that's what rise means, 8 feet, and has a horizontal change, which is the change left and right, or the run. So this is the rise. The run is going to be horizontal. This is vertical. This is horizontal. So the vertical change is the rise, and it was 8 feet. The horizontal change, or the run, is 2 feet. So it says, how can you determine the slope of the ride? Well, I have 8 divided by 2, which is 4. So the slope of this ride is 4 feet. Because it was 8, which is the change in the up and down, over 2, which is the change left to right. So now let's apply that. It says find the slope of this treadmill. Well, the up and down change, or how far vertically, which is this one right here, is 10. The side to side change is 48, so my slope is 10 over 48, which reduces to 5/24. Let's look at this one. Well, this tells me that the graph shows the cost of muffins at a bake sale. So if I were to graph these, if I look right here, I have a point, and this point is at 1, because remember we go left and right first, so my change in x is 1, my change in y is 2. So if I put y over x, that's going to be a change of 2 over 1. So my slope is simply a 2. Okay? I'm going through this pretty quick, but we've already talked a lot about this through constant rate of change. So now let's do this next one. My change in, I'm actually going to go down here to the got it. And this tells me I'm looking at this point compared to this point. Well, if I look at this, if I go from here to here, if I draw lines connecting these points like a stairway, my change in y over my change in x, my x I go up 1, 2, 3. So my change in x is 3. My change in y, oh, I told you that wrong. My up and down is my y. So my up and down is 3. I apologize for that. My side to side is my x, and my change in x is 1, 2, 3, 4. So my slope for that line is a 3/4. Let's look at this one. Change in y over change in x. Well, if I look at my change in y, I have to pick 2 y's to find my change, because a change means that it goes from one value to another. So my change in y is a negative 2. Nope, I lied to you. Negative 1 minus a negative 2. My change in x then goes from here to here, so I have a negative 2 minus a negative 6. So if I went ahead and did the math, a negative 1 minus a negative 2, which means a negative 1 plus 2, I would have a 1. And if I look at the bottom, I have a negative 2 minus a negative 6, which is the same as a negative 2 plus 6, which is a 4. So my change is a 1/4. I always take my second y, this is my first x, this is my second x, this is my first y, this is my second y. In order to find slope, you take your second y minus your first y, and you take your second x minus your first x. Okay? So let's look at another example. Here I have two coordinates. Hopefully you remember that in a coordinate, your first number is your x, your second number is your y. That's huge to remember. So if I look at this one right here, my first number is my x, my second number is my y. So here's my x1, my first x, here's my y1, my first y. And then I have a second coordinate, I have a second point. So here's my second x, here's my second y. So I have my first x, my first y, my second x, my second y. And now I use that equation where I did y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Well, and then I just plug in my numbers. My y2 is a 3. My first y is a 2 over my second x, which is a 5, minus my first x, which is a 2. So now if I do the math on that, 3 minus 2 is 1, 5 minus 2 is 3. So on that particular example, my slope is 1/3. Okay? Go ahead and do this one, E, on your own. Remember the -7 is your x1. The -4 is your y1. This is your first coordinate, so this is your x1, y1. This is your second coordinate, so this is your x2, your second x, and this is your second y. And plug them into this equation. All right, if you guys have any questions, that was really quick, but it was something that we're building on, so it should be familiar to you. If you have any questions, please write them down, or if you need to rewatch the video, please do so. Otherwise, we will see you tomorrow. Have a great night. Bye.